Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're focusing on a really pivotal time for Christians, Holy Week.
That's right.
And based on your requests, actually, we're going to zero in on a day that sometimes, well, it kind of flies under the radar, Holy Monday.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you think about Palm Sunday's big entrance, or Good Friday, obviously, and Easter. They get most of the focus. But Holy Monday, it offers this crucial turning point in the story of Jesus' final week, often quite subtle, though.
Exactly. So we've got access to some fascinating source material covering the whole sweep of Holy Week, mapping that journey from the joyful entry into Jerusalem right through to the resurrection.
Hmm.
But for this deep dive, our mission is really to get under the skin of Holy Monday itself, to explore what makes it significant and uncover the messages it still holds for you today.
Sort of looking beyond the headlines of the week.
Precisely, finding those perhaps unexpected truths.
And it's so important to frame it within that whole week, isn't it? It kicks off with all that hope, that celebration on Palm Sunday.
Right, the hosannas.
Exactly. But then very quickly, it starts to grapple with the brokenness and the complexities of the world Jesus was stepping into.
Oh.
Holy Monday, I think, is really where that initial joy starts to bump up against the harsh realities that are going to shape the rest of the week.
Okay, let's dive right into it then.
Mm.
One of the main events associated with Holy Monday, Jesus cleansing the temple. Can you paint a picture for us? What do our sources say happened?
Sure. So the gospel accounts describe Jesus going into the temple complex in Jerusalem. And instead of finding a serene place of worship, he finds this bustling marketplace
A
almost.
marketplace inside the temple.
Yeah, essentially, you had money changers there. People needed specific temple coins to pay the tax, so they exchanged Roman money, often at, well, let's just say favorable rates for the changers.
Okay.
And merchants selling animals, doves, sheep, oxen for the sacrifices. Now, these services were necessary, practically speaking,
Right.
but it seems the system had become really exploitative over time. Pilgrims coming from far away, they were basically a captive audience.
So they were being ripped off.
That's the strong implication. The whole atmosphere was more like a chaotic bazaar than a sacred space. As one source memorably puts it, they'd turned a house of prayer into a den of thieves.
Wow. You can almost feel that jarring shift, can't you? Just the day before, crowds shouting, Hosanna.
Mm.
And now Jesus walks into this scene. Sounds like pretty blatant profiteering right there in God's house.
Yeah.
So his reaction driving them out, what was the real significance? Was it just, tidying up, restoring order?
Oh, it was much, much more than just tidying up. This was a deeply symbolic act. It revealed some fundamental things about Jesus and his mission.
Okay.
Firstly, it just screams his reverence for the temple's sanctity. He saw it as God's house, a place for prayer, for connecting with the divine. And this commercialization, it was a profound violation of that.
Makes sense.
Secondly, it really highlights his passion for justice, exploiting vulnerable pilgrims, especially in that setting. It was a massive injustice, and his actions were like this prophetic denunciation of that whole corrupt system.
All right.
And finally, I think it was a powerful assertion of his authority. I mean, to walk in and disrupt the established religious and economic order within the temple itself, that was a huge statement. It implicitly declared who he believed he was.
Yeah.
Our sources suggest this wasn't just like a spontaneous outburst of anger. It was deliberate, symbolic, a planned demonstration, maybe.
That really adds weight to it. It wasn't just about chasing out a few vendors. It was a direct challenge to the powers that be.
Exactly.
So bringing this into our listeners' world, what kind of reflection does this part of Holy Monday invite? What can we take away from this scene for ourselves?
Well, this is where it gets quite personal, I think. The sources really encourage you to think about the purity of your own spiritual temple.
Meaning our inner life.
Exactly. Your heart, your mind, your motivations, your actions, even the communities you're part of. Are there places where the sacred for you has maybe gotten tangled up with the profane? Have you, maybe without even noticing, let things like, say, materialism or pride or maybe resentment kind of set up shop inside?
Like those money changers setting up their tables.
Precisely. Are there transactions happening within you that prioritize maybe selfish gain or worldly status over deeper spiritual values? It's a tough question, but a really vital one. Has anything compromised that sacred space inside you?
That's a powerful parallel. Not just a building, but our own integrity, how we operate day to day. Now, our sources also talk about another key event on Holy Monday, the encounter with the fig tree. the barren fig tree. Tell us about that one.
Right, so after the intensity of the temple scene, the accounts describe Jesus and his disciples walking along, and they see a fig tree by the road. And this tree looked promising. It was full of leaves,
Okay.
which, usually signals fruit. But when Jesus went closer to look, he found nothing, just leaves, no figs.
And his reaction was?
He cursed the tree, said something like, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And the sources note it withered up remarkably quickly afterwards.
Okay, on the surface, that sounds, well, a bit harsh, doesn't it? Over a tree not having fruit out of season, maybe. What's the symbolism our sources point to?
Yeah, it can seem puzzling at first, but the fig tree here is seen as this potent symbol. Primarily, it represents spiritual barrenness and maybe even hypocrisy.
How so?
Well, all those leaves gave the appearance of life, of fruitfulness. It looked the part, but it was empty. It didn't deliver.
Ah, I see.
So the parallel is drawn to, outward shows of religion or claims of faith that aren't backed up by actual fruit, by genuine transformation in a person's life, acts of love, justice, service, humility.
So looking religious but not actually living it out.
Exactly. One source puts it very directly. Religious appearances are meaningless without true transformation and obedience. It wasn't really about Jesus being hungry and annoyed. It was a living parable about authentic faith needing to produce real results.
Got it. So it's about the integrity of faith. What we say we believe should actually change how we live.
Yeah.
How can our listeners take this message from the fig tree to heart?
Well, it really prompts a kind of honest self-check, doesn't it? Is my faith, if someone looked closely, actually bearing fruit? Is it more than just, going through the motions or saying the right things? Does it genuinely impact my choices, my relationships, how I treat people, how I engage with the world? Is the outward expression matched by an inner reality?
That's the core question.
Yeah. What kind of fruit is my life actually producing because of what I believe? Or are there maybe areas where I look leafy, look faithful on the outside, but inwardly I'm a bit barren when it comes to actual compassion or service?
It's challenging stuff. These two events, the temple cleansing, very forceful, and then this cursing of the fig tree, they definitely carry an intensity.
Yeah.
How does this day, Holy Monday, fit into the bigger picture of Holy Week? We start with Palm Sunday's joy.
Yeah.
This feels like quite a sudden shift.
You've absolutely hit on a key point there. Holy Monday really marks the start of Jesus's direct, sometimes quite confrontational engagement with what one source calls the brokenness of the world. That Palm Sunday welcome, while genuine in the moment perhaps, was maybe a bit superficial from the crowds. Holy Monday goes deeper. It exposes the underlying tensions, the systemic problems Jesus was challenging, corruption in religion, faith that was just for show.
So less celebration, more confrontation.
Exactly. It's a definite pivot from that outward celebration towards a much more intense encounter with truth and the need for real fundamental change.
And, we tend to focus so much on the later day, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, Easter Sunday.
Understandably.
Yeah, but it sounds like Holy Monday really lays some critical groundwork for everything that unfolds after it.
Absolutely. It might not get the same airtime as, say, Holy Tuesday with all its teachings, or Spy Wednesday and the betrayal, or the Last Supper, the crucifixion, the silence of Holy Saturday, and then Easter.
Right.
But Holy Monday sets this indispensable tone. It establishes Jesus' authority, his absolute commitment to purity and justice, and this crucial idea that faith must bear fruit. It's like the first act that raises the stakes, ignites the conflict that escalates through the week, leading to those ultimate transformative events.
Okay, so if we were to boil it down, synthesize what we've talked about, what are the key takeaways for our listener from this deep dive into Holy Monday? What should really stick?
Okay, well, first, I think, is that theme of purity and holiness. It's undeniable. Holy Monday is this powerful call to examine, and if necessary, cleanse our own temples, our inner lives, our actions, our motives, challenging any corruption or compromise there, striving for integrity.
Definitely. And second, it seems, is the absolute importance of authentic faith. That image of the fig tree is such a stark reminder, isn't it? That outward shows have to be connected to real interchange and actual results in the world, living it out.
Precisely. Thirdly, you see that courage and conviction in Jesus at the temple. His boldness in confronting injustice head-on is, well, it's an example for us, isn't it? To stand up for what's right and holy even when it's hard or unpopular.
Having the courage of your convictions.
Yes. And fourth, Holy Monday really highlights the importance of reverence for the sacred. And that's not just about church buildings. It's about honoring what's truly holy in all parts of life, relationships, our work, how we treat creation, our own bodies even.
Right, broadening the idea of sacred space.
And finally, maybe the biggest takeaway. Holy Monday is fundamentally a call to action. It's not just for thinking about, it actively pushes you to align your life with God's values, to, overturn whatever is getting in the way inside you or around you of true worship, real service, and the growth of love and justice. It's about doing.
Taking concrete steps.
Yes, living a life that genuinely reflects what you say you believe.
So wrapping up this deep dive on Holy Monday, it's really clear that this day, even if it's often overlooked, is far from minor. It packs a real punch, offering these deep, lasting lessons about what true faith looks like, and that constant need for purity, both inside and out.
Indeed. It's a reminder that the journey through Holy Week, and maybe the journey of faith generally, involves actively confronting things that hinder our connection to the divine and intentionally working to live lives that bear, authentic, meaningful fruit from that connection.
Well said. And maybe on that note, here's a final thought for you, our listener, to carry through this week. What tables in your own life might need overturning right now? And looking honestly, what kind of fruit is your faith actually producing in the world? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.